just wanted to bring it up, and I'll give you a little background story. I've actually been through 2 custody evaluations, so my complaint isn't necessarily with that process. The other custody evaluation that I've been through wasn't necessarily the outcome or the results that I wanted to see, but I have absolutely no complaints. It was very fair. However, the second one is the one that I'm here about. I've actually had 2 professionals come to a second opinion on it. We just formalized my complaint last week, and we will be receiving it probably next week once we make final edits. But, so I'm just going to read this to get through it quickly. My name is Cynthia Shibbles. Prior to a custody evaluation, I was my son's primary caregiver and primary residence for 12 years. My son has had 2 therapists and a school counselor in the past 4 years that doesn't see anything the way that the custody evaluator did. In fact, both my son's therapists will testify that this custody evaluation has placed my son primarily in a home where he is enduring some of the worst emotional abuse that they have ever seen. It's hard to say. Of the many faults that my custody evaluation process, I've pulled out a few examples where I feel that you can improve on enforcement and rules. The professionals that I've had review my Dr. Sherry evaluation, they are going through the clinical and ethical part. These are just a few that I can personally attest to. My judge ordered a counselor to come back in 30 days with a report. Dr. Sherry took 17 months and a cost of $45,000. My request is to enforce the ordered timelines and set limitations on the time allowed and the maximum cost. My judge ordered a counselor to see where this 12-year-old child is at in all of this. And out of 240 billed hours by Dr. Sherry, she spent a total of 40 minutes with my child, and that was only when he was in his dad's possession. My request is that the ordered scope actually be addressed and the time spent with children be equally with both parents and also independent of either parent. 70% of what opposing side provided to Dr. Sherry was completely false. 50% of it I actually had physical hard proof. There was no opportunity to object or provide this evidence prior to 90% of the report already being written, and most of her report was based on opposing sides' unvalidated opinions. Out of 240 hours, only 20 minutes of phone conversation was had with my child's therapist of 3 years. This therapist was dismissed from my case because their views were not in alignment with the custody evaluator's views. My request is that it be prohibited that custody evaluator has the power to dismiss other professionals from the case without some sort of process to validate their reasons. The amount of time spent with each side and their collaterals was very unequal as well as the number of collaterals contacted for each side. This is all evidenced in the invoices that will be included with the complaint. My request is that it be enforced that there not be an unequal amount of time spent with collaterals or during in-home visits. Now, regarding some of the clinical and ethical complaints that we'll have, I'm just going to read you some of what the professionals that have reviewed my evaluation have said. This is from Dr. Joanne Murphy. She says, in my opinion, Dr. Sherry's analysis of data relative to the questions posed by the court appears frankly biased with clear selective attention directed at perceived faults of Ms. Shibbles. Concerning Dr. Sherry's recommendations, no support or rationale is offered for giving Ms. Campbell all primary parent authority and visitation. Dr. Sherry's recommendations selectively validated unilateral actions by Mr. Campbell which appeared to contravene the court's orders. It seems quite plausible to me that Dr. Sherry's recommendations validating Mr. Campbell's behaviors under the circumstances reflected selective attention to matters unfavorable to Ms. Shibbles, with no explanation for those recommendations, which thus appear to have been biased against Ms. Shibbles. In sum, I am of the opinion that data exists within Dr. Sherry's records and report to support the contention that she developed a bias against Ms. Shibbles during the evaluation. A bias that caused her to give selective attention to data with negative implications for Ms. Shibbles and ignore all data with negative implications for Mr. Campbell. Considering the scarcity of Dr. Sherry's justification for her recommendations, it is also my concern that bias may have produced recommendations adverse to Ms. Shibbles that were not substantiated by the data. I am concerned for indications that Dr. Sherry breached her boundaries of her role as an impartial custody evaluator to also counsel Ms. Shibbles against engaging in certain behaviors. It's documented this occurrence as a way of emphasizing that Dr. Sherry saw Ms. Shibbles' negative traits and disregarded similar negative traits that the data suggests were present in Mr. Campbell's actions.
Excuse me, if you would, I think we get your point with regard to the opinion with the reviewer. Could you speak to solutions that you might suggest and wrap it up?
My personal solutions I had gone over. There's also, I believe Shelby Michaels, who did
Well,
the
summarize it if you
clinical
would.
review, it has, okay. On top of the potential ethical violations and the violations of Chapter 107 of the Family Code that were found, as a licensed professional, I am highly concerned with Dr. Sherry's insinuations that the child's long-term therapist, Rhonda Gilchrist, was somehow acting inappropriately and recommended her removal as the child's therapist. It appears as if Dr. Sherry merely had a difference of opinion on theoretical and clinical approaches in this case, on business policies and procedures, and she is unaware of LPC Code of Ethics. In my experience with reading hundreds of custody evaluations and other assessments, I have never seen a report so unnecessarily extraneous, dismissive of collateral sources, and extremely biased. There are also very few dates within the report, making it difficult for even a clinical reviewer to track and follow the timeline on the evaluation, or to determine if it was completed in a timely manner, or if adequate consent was actually obtained, which it was not. While I cannot impose my findings on the psychology board, I have advised Ms. Shibbles that there does appear to be enough doubt and evidence of Dr. Sherry's bias in poor handling of this case to file a complaint with the board. I would suggest that a thorough investigation of Dr. Sherry's conduct on this case be conducted, and further, as I have been made aware of other potential misconducts by Dr. Sherry on similar cases, I would highly recommend that the board investigate as to whether there is a pattern of impropriety.
Thank you.